knowing I'm getting full. Develop these solidified eating habits already that you don't even know or understand. Being a big back. Let's talk about it. Hey nosy, welcome and welcome back to my channel. It's your girl D.Crizzle, and I'm here to talk about lifestyle, travel, and advice. And today we're gonna talk about it, and it's all about life and maybe a little bit of advice. So let's get into it. This one is gonna be tough. This one's gonna be tough for me because there's a little bit of vulnerability in a sense, but we're gonna talk today about eating habits in a sense, just eating style in general. But first, I like to say, bring it in a little closer. Here on this channel, we're all about being honest and open. We don't tolerate any of that hoopla, no hoopla. So you are free here to speak, comment if you would like to, and talk about how you feel. We do not shame those on how they eat. We do not bully those on what they feel. We are open and honest, but with kindness and positivity. So keep that hoopla out of here and take it out the door. The door, okay?
Viewers like you. Thank you.
So, eating, right? In the world that we're in right now, where being a big back is a thing, is a little bit of a topic in the moment. From diet culture ever since COVID happened to now on trying to lose weight in any kind of way, eating kind of has been the new trending topic. You know what I mean? But I feel like I don't see a lot of people taking in the concept of how your eating style throughout your life affects you now. And I just always wondered if anybody has experienced the things that I have experienced and just never really found someone to talk to about it or anywhere where it's talked about. So like ever since I was a kid, right? I feel like I've been through phases of my life from kid to teen to adulthood now when it comes to eating. But predominantly as a kid, you always hear the talk about of don't pick over your plate, clean your plate. You better eat it all. I need you to eat it all. And no one really explains to you deeply on what they're trying to get at. You just know usually as a kid that is not meant in a malicious way. It's especially in a Black household. Like how many of us have heard our parents, especially our mama, say, you better clean that plate. You better not waste my food. And guess what we did? We didn't waste that food because we knew what was coming next, okay? So it's this connection with food where you're like, I have to eat it. I gotta eat it. Like if it's presented in front of me, it's something I have to eat. And it's like you don't realize that later in life, when you're presented with a plate, your brain is like, you gotta eat it. We gotta eat every last bit of it. And that's something that just like clicked over in my head as an adult, like, I don't have to eat it all. I don't have to clean my plates. There's no negativity of the effect of me not finishing my plate besides myself. And it's that weird like brain switch that you have where it's like, oh my gosh, you know, that me, do, 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 like, it's like your frontal lobe finally clicks and you realize, I gotta do that. I'm free. But it's just something that I noticed later on in my life that I didn't have to clean my plate. But people, especially maybe not all, but a lot of people in Black households have been through the whole, you better not waste your food. You're not leaving that kitchen table until you finish your plate. And it's one of those minute things where you know your parent wasn't trying to be malicious. They were just trying to get you to eat all your food so you can grow and get the nutrients you need. Nutrients you need. But you didn't realize that later in life, you kind of have that weird, I don't know how to explain it, like this anxiety in the back of your head of like, you better eat all your food, especially when you go over to someone else's house and they come over and they like, here, baby, I made you a plate. And it's like this weird notion of, I better eat all this plate, because if I don't eat this plate, then they're going to take it to heart, and it's disrespectful not to finish someone's plate they gave to you. You ain't got to finish it all. If you fool, you fool. And I noticed that I didn't have to finish it all, because there will be times where I do get a meal, right? And I be eating it, knowing I'm getting full. But something in me is like, you gotta eat it all. It's all in front of you. And bruh, I end up getting up, rubbing my stomach. You know when we start rubbing the legs, cause you that full, you start rubbing your legs, you rubbing your stomach, you like, bruh, I'm so full, I ate too much. Then you have the audacity to say that you ate too much. And guess what? You still overeat the next time. So it's like we know that we have a limit, but we're still overeating. And I think that's where it stems from, is this weird connection from what you've been told when you were younger, that your brain is like, you gotta finish the plate. But you don't have to finish the plate. You can leave leftovers. You can leave crumbs behind. You can save it for later. You can eat it as a midnight snack. You ain't gotta eat it all. But I also think that's the connection I have with leftovers too. And raise your hand if you do this with leftovers. And I'm just curious. Let me know if you do this with leftovers. You will cook a big meal, and it'll be a pot of something. We're gonna say spaghetti. And you will sit there and eat that spaghetti for like 4 to 5 days until the whole pot is gone. And you'll remix it, like you throw in a piece of garlic bread one day, you eat a piece of fish with it. But you keep eating that same pot of spaghetti until it's finished, and you never throw in a different meal in between this. You literally Monday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, keep eating this spaghetti until the pot is gone. Now, hold that thought. Now raise your hand if you grew up in a household that ate leftovers until it was gone. So now you do the same thing. And I'm finna break you from the shackles. I'm finna break every chain, break every chain.
Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up out of your sleep.
You ain't gotta finish the pot. You ain't gotta finish the pot. You don't have to eat all of those leftovers until the pot is empty. You can literally give the food to someone else. Like, hey, I made a pot of spaghetti. Do you want some? I can bring you in some. Or just compost it. Throw it out. You don't have to force yourself to eat a food just because it's there. And I notice I also do that too with items that I buy. And it could just be an economic thing. Like I can buy a snack to try and then I end up realizing I don't like it, but then I'll force myself to eat it because I bought it or because there's multiple packs of it. And it's like, you ain't gotta force yourself to eat these dry, stale chips. They dry, stale, and nasty. Throw them away. Give them away. But it's something where it's like you don't want to waste the food. You don't want to waste your money. You don't want to be wasteful. And I think that goes back to the whole thing. Like, you better eat it all. You better not waste your food. You clean your plate. You don't waste food. How many of you guys, too, were like guilt tripped that if you don't eat your food, there's starving children in Africa? Like, we all grew up on those commercials with the lady that's talking about for like I think a nickel a day you can feed a child in Africa. Do you guys remember those commercials?
What would you do if there was a child right in front of you, sitting all alone, crying in pain from hunger, near death from sickness? And what if all you had to do was reach into your pocket and pull out 50 cents to save that child's life?
And then we were guilt tripped as children to eat our food because there were starving children around the world. I'm 6 and I'm feeling guilty for not finishing my whole freaking slice of pizza. I'm full, but I'm gonna eat it all because there is a kid out there that can eat my pizza instead. You see what I'm saying? It's like this weird chemistry in your brain that makes you feel like, or almost guilts you or gives you anxiety where you have to finish everything when essentially you don't. You don't, but then you carry that into adulthood and, you know, changes be happening. Metabolism is different. Your activity is different. And you're wondering why you're going through all these body changes and you don't even think back to exactly your relationship to your food. It's like now that I'm an adult, I'm understanding my relationship with food can completely change. And that my childhood has also affected the way I have a relationship with food. And I think that's what needs to be assessed more than the whole like, oh, you're gaining weight because you're overeating, which could be, but it's a harder concept to beat the idea that you're overeating when you don't understand why you're overeating. Why do you want to eat more? Is it because you truly are hungry, or is it because you kind of eat past the point of being full and now you need a nap? Like, you see that there is a difference there between feeling those two things, because that's something that I noticed within me. I can eat and start feeling full, and then now I just stop. Like, I'm full. If I have leftovers, I have leftovers. Before, though, it was like, I made this meal. It's all on my plate. I got to eat it all to clean my plate. And that's not a good relationship with food, because it's like I'm overcompensating me trying to get rid of that feeling of I have to clean my plate by overeating, but it's hurting myself in the end. And I think it's hard too, because as you continue to grow from adolescence into teenagehood, you start seeing a change in the way you have a relationship with food. You want more junk food, and then everyone either has comments on how you look and how you eat. Now, I grew up very petite. I was a very petite teenager. I was lanky, okay? I grew it up in that weird, her arms and legs is long and the torso isn't matching type of thing yet. So I just looked like Slender Man for a while. I was just lanky looking for my body height. It was just my limbs looked longer than what they were. But because I was so slim, I always heard comments like, girl, are you eating? I know you eat, but it ain't going nowhere. And it's like, you know, it's just because it's not showing, but it's this weird connotation of I'm eating enough. Why are you acting like I'm not eating? I'm eating. This is just my body. But I know from my experience, especially in the Black community, and if you feel this way too, we usually have a very diverse body shape in our community, but we know that a lot of the times more curvy body figures are praised more when you got a little more meat on your bones, you know what I'm saying? So then I would get comments like, oh yeah, such and such a big girl, like she eats. But then they'll look at me like, you ain't eating because I'm petite. Like, I'm eating probably as much as she is. But why is there this comparison there? So then you're feeling like I'm not eating enough. Let me eat more. Or maybe if you're on the other spectrum where you do got meat on your bones, it's kind of more of this praise of like, you got meat on your bones because you eat. So now you're having a relationship with food of like, I look good because I eat. But no one is letting you build that relationship of like, hey, metabolism plays a factor. Hey, activity plays a factor. Hey, genes play a factor. They're just making it seem like if you eat, you got a little more meat. If you don't eat, that's why you're that skinny. Like, especially the whole, I eat my rice and cabbage. Y'all remember that? Y'all remember that era where it was like, if you wanted a booty, you gotta eat rice and cabbage?
Bad bitch. Bitch, I eat my rice and cabbage. Asshole said he wanna grab it.
Okay. Now you really got girls going home telling their mama, can you make rice and cabbage tonight? Like, we was really just out of control back then during Vine, okay? But it's this whole building of everything you get from your childhood lingers on later, because now that you're coming from teenagehood, growing into your awkward body, growing into all these changes, you develop these solidified eating habits already that you don't even know or understand the deepness of how you're eating. So then you get off to college and then you hear the whole freshman 15, the sophomore 20. And then you're like, bruh, I can't eat Chick-fil-A every day on campus. But I used to be able to eat Chick-fil-A on campus every day. And now I can't. And it's just this wild thing to think about of like the struggle of trying to understand your body and food in general, because you grab these habits of always eating this way, and then you get to adulthood, you gain some weight, or maybe you don't gain weight, but then people are telling you like, you can't eat like that all the time because you ain't a kid anymore. You taught me how to eat as a kid. Then as an adult, you want to look me in the face and say, you can't eat like that no more because you're not a kid? You taught me how to eat as a kid. So it's like, if you want someone to carry on good eating habits or have a good relationship with food, you have to solidify it then. But it's this notion of you feel like you are. You're withholding the sweets. You're withholding overeating, but you're trying to get them to eat to grow. But then they grow. Then it's the whole you ain't eating enough or you're not eating less. And then they go off into adulthood and you just want them to assume to know how to have a relationship with food. I don't think that's how that works. I honestly don't. And it's hard too as an adult because no one tells you about the second puberty. No one tells you that your body completely shifts into another different form of yourself, because your whole life you was still growing in your teenage, early adult like body, and then boom, your body shifts again, and now you're sitting here like, man, after COVID, I gained some weight. But now you're on Google, YouTube, Instagram, listening to like so many overwhelming videos on what you should do to lose weight, and a lot of it is centered around eating. Now, there are really good videos out there about like fitness and getting into the gym and stuff, but especially among, I feel like, the women community, a lot of it is centered around eating the juices, the only eating eggs, the protein powder, or you need to do a 24-hour fast, a 42-hour fast. And it's like, has anyone ever stopped and asked somebody, hey, how do you feel about your relationship with food? Were you withheld like snacks and sweets? Do you binge on sweets? Why do you think you binge on sweets? Because I'll be honest, I binge on sweets. And I thought I just binged on sweets because I have a sweet tooth. But I kind of paused and thought one day, like, I actually think I binge on sweets because when I was a kid, sweets was restricted in my household. Like, it wasn't like anything that was like, you can't have sweets. We got sweets, but sweets was a treat. But it was also like, you can't go and get it when you wanted to. You had to ask, and you was only limited. Now, I know it wasn't out of anything where it was like, I don't want you eating sweets. I knew it was just to control me overeating on sweets. And it was also just like any parent, like, you don't want your kids getting cavities, kids kind of nitpick over food even though they're not hungry. It was stuff like that, you know, the typical normal stuff. But because it was something I didn't have access to, and then when I did have access to, something in me felt like I gotta eat lots of it because I'm never gonna get it again. And I would catch myself in the store buying a sweet and saying that, where it's like, okay, but I'm not going to get it again for a long time. So then it's like, I go a whole day where it's like, I already ate bad. I ate a slice of cake. So now I'm going to eat a piece of chocolate bar. Now I'm going to eat this piece of cheesecake. It's like, I'll let myself eat all these sweets in one sitting because it feels like I'm not going to see it again for weeks or months. And I think it goes back to feeling that restricted about it then, that now it's like, I feel like it's just going to disappear from me now. And now I realize, like, it's okay to have a sweet. It's okay to want to eat a piece of cake and I don't have to binge and eat others because it's there. I can eat it. It's there. I can eat it, right? And I feel like it's the same thing as an adult. Like, you have to step back and think, why do I have this relationship? Why do I have these eating habits now? And kind of pull apart that whole habit in your own understanding, in your own brain. And if you can't, sometimes talking it out with someone or talking it out in therapy or anyone that's willing to hear you out is good, is healthy to talk it out with anyone who's willing to listen, even with yourself, because I don't know about you, but I love talking to myself. We like that. myself, and I be like that in my own room by myself all the time. So I was just always curious on how other people felt about their eating habits and their relationship with food. And if you feel the same way I do, let's talk about it. Let me know. It's always good to just talk about with anybody. And maybe instead of getting so deep and wrapped up in how everyone is giving their opinion on diets and just go on a fast, reset yourself, detox, let's just and take it a step at a time. You ain't got to do it all at once. It truly does take time. It's like the saying, it takes 90 days to gain a habit. And guess what? You've been doing that habit for 10 plus, 15 plus, 20 plus, 40, 60 decades plus of your life. It's hard to break a habit and start a new one, but it's never too hard to try it now. So let me know what you think below, and have a great day. Have a good meal, and peace out.